On December 25, 2017, Oak Bay, a quiet seaside community in Victoria, Canada, sparkled under the festive lights of Christmas. Homes lined the streets, each window aglow with the soft light of decorated trees and colorful displays of Santa Claus and reindeer. The air, usually brisk and filled with the scent of winter, carried the laughter and chatter of families celebrating the season. Yet, this picturesque setting was starkly disrupted by the piercing sound of police sirens that evening. The sirens converged on a modest family home, the residence of Sarah Cotton. What was meant to be a night of joyous celebrations had taken a dark turn. The flashing blue and red lights cast long, ominous shadows across the snow-covered lawn, hinting at the gravity of the situation unfolding inside. Neighbors, drawn by the commotion, watched from their doorways, a mix of concern and curiosity etched on their faces. As the community nestled in the safety of their warm homes, Sarah's house stood eerily silent. The usual cheer of the holiday was overshadowed by a growing sense of dread. What happened in this seemingly peaceful home to draw such urgent attention from the authorities on Christmas Day? Sarah Cotton grew up in Victoria, Canada, where she established her roots in a community known for its closeness and scenic beauty. She was a bright and ambitious woman, characterized by her warm smile and a keen interest in communication and public relations. After graduating from the University of Victoria in 2005, she quickly stepped into the professional world, securing an internship that paved the way for her future career in communications. By 2007, Sarah had joined the Tartan Group, a well-respected public relations firm, where she excelled and quickly made a name for herself through her dedication and the quality of her work. Her early successes in her career were not just a testament to her skills, but also to her genuine passion for connecting with people and telling stories that mattered. Family was always central to Sarah's life. She was particularly close to her father, who was not only a loving parent, but also her greatest supporter. His guidance and protection were constant throughout her life, providing a foundation of security and confidence that Sarah drew upon in all areas of her life. His sudden death in a car accident in 2013 was a devastating blow that shook the very core of her existence, leaving a void that was difficult to fill. The loss deeply affected Sarah, altering her outlook and emotional resilience. It was during this vulnerable time that her relationship with Andrew, whom she had met and married several years prior, began to show signs of strain. The changes in Sarah's life set the stage for a tumultuous period that would challenge her in ways she had never anticipated. Sarah first crossed paths with Andrew Barry in 2009, while they both worked at British Columbia Ferries, a public company providing transport between the mainland and coastal islands of British Columbia. Their initial connection was sparked by mutual interests and shared experiences at work, quickly blossoming into a romantic relationship. Sarah found Andrew's charm and seemingly laid-back attitude refreshing, and it wasn't long before their casual dating evolved into something more serious. In 2010, buoyed by a year of happy memories and shared dreams, Andrew proposed, and Sarah accepted without hesitation. They married in a modest ceremony in Victoria, surrounded by close family and friends. The couple's union marked the beginning of what Sarah envisioned as a lifelong partnership, filled with love, support, and mutual respect, a foundation they hoped to build their future family upon. The birth of Chloe in 2011 and then Aubrey in 2013 brought immense joy to Sarah and Andrew's lives. The couple, now parents, initially embraced their new roles with enthusiasm. However, the demands of parenthood began to reveal cracks in their relationship. Andrew's demeanor changed gradually, his once easygoing nature giving way to moments of unpredictability and frustration. Sarah, deeply committed to her children's well-being, often found herself mediating to maintain peace at home. The situation deteriorated further following the unexpected death of Sarah's father in late 2013. His passing removed a crucial pillar of emotional support from Sarah's life, deeply affecting her resilience and mental state. Her father had been a buffer against Andrew's growing unpredictability, and without him, the household dynamics shifted significantly. Andrew's behavior became increasingly difficult for Sarah to manage, especially as she dealt with her own grief. By 2014, the relationship faced severe strains as Andrew's temper led to verbal altercations that often occurred in front of the children. The environment at home, once a haven for Sarah, began to feel tense and unstable. As the foundation of their marriage weakened, Sarah's efforts to keep the family unit intact became more challenging, setting the stage for further conflicts that would eventually push the couple to their breaking point. Tensions in Sarah and Andrew's marriage reached a critical point in early 2015. Andrew's aggression escalated beyond harsh words to physical confrontations. A particularly alarming incident occurred in April 2015 when an argument spiraled out of control. Andrew, in a fit of rage, pinned Sarah against the wall and began choking her. Terrified, Sarah managed to break free and called the police. This marked a turning point for Sarah, realizing that the safety of herself and her children was at stake. Following the choking incident, Sarah took decisive action. She obtained a restraining order that legally barred Andrew from coming near her or the children. With the law on her side, she felt a temporary relief, but the ordeal was far from over. In the months that followed, the couple initiated divorce proceedings. The process was fraught with challenges, primarily centered around custody of Chloe and Aubrey. The court battles were lengthy and emotionally draining. Sarah fought to ensure that Andrew's access to the children was limited, arguing his unpredictable behavior made him a risk to their safety. The divorce was finalized later that year, granting Sarah full custody of the children, while Andrew was allowed supervised visits only. The court mandated Andrew to pay child support, an obligation he met inconsistently, adding further strain to the post-divorce dynamics. This period marked a new chapter of independence for Sarah, who was determined to rebuild a safe and stable life for her daughters. After their separation and divorce in 2015, Sarah and Andrew entered into a contentious period over the custody of Chloe and Aubrey. The initial custody agreement allowed Andrew only supervised visits, reflecting the court's concerns over his past aggressive behavior. Despite the supervision, these visits were a source of ongoing stress for Sarah, who remained vigilant about the safety of her daughters. The legal battles also extended into financial areas, particularly over child support and the division of property. Andrew was inconsistent in making child support payments, complicating Sarah's financial situation as she strived to provide for Chloe and Aubrey. The court's involvement became necessary to enforce these payments, adding layers of legal disputes to the already strained relationship between Sarah and Andrew. In 2016, another significant legal decision was made regarding the family home. The court ordered Andrew to sell his share of the property to Sarah at a reduced price. The cost of share of the property was $60,000, and Andrew was ordered to sell it for $20,000, considering the outstanding child support. This decision was intended to alleviate some of the financial burden on Sarah while ensuring the children's home environment remained stable. Andrew, however, was displeased with this arrangement, viewing it as unfair and financially disadvantageous. These ongoing legal disputes were not only financially draining, but also emotionally taxing for both parties. The constant back and forth in court, the need for lawyers, and the scrutiny of private family matters added significant stress to Sarah's life. Yet, she remained focused on securing a safe and stable future for her daughters, fighting tirelessly to keep Andrew's influence limited and their living situation secure. The legal battles, while challenging, were a necessary evil to protect her daughters from the instability that Andrew's behavior could bring into their lives. Sarah celebrated her birthday on December 21, 2017, a day filled with small joys and the laughter of her daughters, Chloe and Aubrey. The birthday was marked by a cozy gathering at home, where Chloe and Aubrey helped their mother blow out the candles, their faces lit with excitement. This family celebration was a brief respite from the ongoing challenges Sarah faced, allowing them all to relish in moments of togetherness and love. With her birthday behind her, Sarah turned her attention to preparing for Christmas. She decorated their home with care, hanging stockings, setting up a beautifully adorned Christmas tree, and wrapping presents that sat under the tree, waiting to be opened by excited little hands. Each decoration added to the festive atmosphere, but also weighed on Sarah's heart, as she knew the girls would soon be spending part of their Christmas with Andrew. On the morning of December 25, 2017, Sarah drove Chloe and Aubrey to Andrew's house. As she prepared to leave them there, her emotions were conflicted. She felt uneasy about Andrew's ability to care for their daughters, especially given his past behavior and the current strains in their interactions. Despite the court's assurances and supervised visitation arrangements, Sarah couldn't shake off a deep-seated worry for her daughter's well-being. As she hugged Chloe and Aubrey goodbye, Sarah tried to mask her concern with a smile, encouraging them to enjoy their time with their father. She reminded them that she would see them soon, holding back her anxiety as she waved them off at the doorstep. Driving away, Sarah's car became quieter, the absence of her daughters palpable. She felt a knot in her stomach, a mother's intuition that something was amiss as she headed back to an empty home to wait for their return. On the afternoon of December 25, 2017, as Christmas celebrations continued across Oak Bay, a shadow fell over Sarah's heart. Chloe and Aubrey were due back at noon, but the clock ticked past the hour with no sign of them or a call from Andrew. Sarah's initial worry quickly turned into alarm. She called Andrew's phone multiple times, each call met with silence. No answer came, not even a text. Her attempts to reach him through other means, including messages and emails, also went unanswered. Frustrated and increasingly anxious, Sarah decided she could wait no longer. Accompanied by her mother, she drove back to Andrew's house. As they approached, the lack of festive lights and the silence around the property contrasted sharply with the vibrant holiday spirit seen elsewhere in the neighborhood. The unease deepened when repeated knocks on Andrew's door went unanswered. Peering through the windows revealed nothing. The house appeared unusually still, almost as if abandoned. Sarah's mother suggested they speak with the neighbors. One neighbor recalled hearing laughter from the children in the morning, but noted it had abruptly stopped around noon. Another mentioned hearing unusual noises, like thuds, bangs, and screams, which they had initially dismissed as holiday revelry. With each passing moment, Sarah's worry turned to panic. Realizing the severity of the situation, Sarah dialed 911. The police arrived swiftly. An officer approached the house, finding the front door unlocked. Stepping inside, the festive air gave way to a chilling scene. The entryway was dim, the air stale. Switching on his flashlight, the officer's beam cut through the darkness, revealing a horrifying scene. The walls and floor were smeared with blood, traces leading down the hallway. Following the grim trail, the officer entered the living room, where the Christmas tree stood ironically adorned next to scenes of apparent violence. The search led to the bedrooms. In one, he found a lifeless Chloe lying on her bed, surrounded by blood-soaked gifts. The room was in disarray, bloody, with signs of a desperate struggle. In another bedroom, Aubrey was discovered under similar tragic circumstances, her small body also bearing signs of violence. The officer urgently called for backup, his voice tense over the radio. Additional police units and medical responders were dispatched as the home became a crime scene. The discovery was relayed to Sarah, who was waiting outside, gripped by a mix of hope and dread. When informed of the devastating news, her world shattered. The street filled with the sounds of Christmas was starkly contrasted by her heart-wrenching screams, mourning the unimaginable loss of her daughters. Meanwhile, the police found Andrew in the bathroom, barely alive, with injuries that appeared self-inflicted. His throat was cut, several stabs on the area of his chest, similar to the type of stabs Chloe and Aubrey had. Each of his breaths came in heavier than the last. He was quickly attended to by paramedics who provided first aid before rushing him to the hospital, where he was placed under police guard. His survival meant that he could potentially provide answers to the many questions about what had happened to Chloe and Aubrey. After confirming the situation, the officer who first entered secured the area to ensure no further danger. Additional police and forensic units arrived promptly, setting up a perimeter to preserve the integrity of the crime scene. The forensic team began their meticulous work, documenting every detail, photographing the scene, and collecting physical evidence that could help explain the sequence of events leading to the children's deaths. In the living room and bedrooms, evidence of a struggle was apparent. Toys and gifts were scattered, some stained with blood, telling a silent, harrowing story of the children's last moments. The forensic team carefully collected samples of blood, fingerprints, and fibers, focusing on the bloody bat found near Chloe and the knife wounds on both children, which were consistent with the kitchen knives taken from Andrew's home. As the investigation unfolded inside, Sarah, kept back by police at a safe distance, struggled to comprehend the news of her daughter's deaths. Her anguish filled the cold Christmas air, a stark contrast to the laughter and light of other homes celebrating the day. Family members and friends arrived, drawn by the news, forming a tight circle around her, trying to offer comfort in the face of overwhelming grief. Sarah's reaction was a visceral portrait of a mother's worst nightmare unfolding in real time. In the aftermath of the tragic events on December 25, 2017, the focus swiftly shifted to gathering and processing evidence to piece together the sequence of events that led to the deaths of Chloe and Aubrey Berry. Forensic teams were meticulous in their approach, collecting blood samples, fingerprints, and DNA from the scene. Each item was carefully cataloged to build a comprehensive picture of the crime. The autopsies on Chloe and Aubrey were conducted promptly. The results were heart-wrenching. Chloe had suffered multiple blunt force traumas to her head, which were fatal, along with numerous stab wounds across her body. She was struck hard with a bat, found near her body covered in blood. Her skull was broken. 26 stab wounds were found on her body. The main cause of her death was loss of blood. Aubrey's autopsy revealed a similar brutal attack, with 32 stab wounds, which also caused fatal bleeding. The nature and multiplicity of their injuries indicated a deliberate and sustained attack, which was particularly difficult for all involved to come to terms with. The exact time of their deaths was not possible to identify. It seemed like Andrew stabbed the front and back side of the girls separately, turning them around. Meanwhile, Andrew Berry was found in a critical condition with self-inflicted wounds, suggesting an attempted suicide. He was rushed to hospital, where he was stabilized and placed under intensive care. His injuries included a deep cut to his throat and several stabs to his chest. As he lay hospitalized, guarded by police, the question of his motive and the sequence of events that led him to harm his own daughters became central to the investigation. The evidence gathered from the home and the medical examinations formed the basis of the case against Andrew. The findings from the crime scene were consistent with a violent struggle taking place, contradicting any initial thoughts of an outside intruder. As Andrew began to recover from his injuries, the police prepared to question him, seeking answers that would clarify the events that transpired in that tragic Christmas setting. The investigation into the tragic deaths of Chloe and Aubrey also brought to light Andrew Berry's personal struggles, particularly his escalating gambling addiction, which became severe after his separation from Sarah. His addiction to gambling was not just a personal vice, it had significant financial problems. After losing his job, Andrew's financial stability crumbled, plunging him into deep debt. He was known to frequent casinos, and his financial desperation grew as he borrowed money, unable to keep up with his losses. This financial desperation was highlighted during the trial through evidence and testimonies about Andrew's debts. It was revealed that he owed substantial amounts to various creditors, which some initially speculated might have provided a motive for someone he owed to be involved in the tragic events. However, as the trial progressed, forensic evidence firmly pointed to Andrew as the perpetrator, proving the theory of an outside involvement. On Christmas Eve 2017, a glimpse into a seemingly ordinary family moment was captured. Camera footage showed Andrew Berry shopping with his daughters, Chloe and Aubrey. The video, recorded just hours before the tragic events, depicted them moving through the aisles, picking out last-minute holiday supplies. Another poignant piece of evidence was a letter found at the scene, addressed to Andrew's sister. In the letter, written as if it were his last, Andrew expressed deep frustrations and resentments towards Sarah, blaming her for his troubles. He wrote about feeling betrayed and cornered, providing a chilling insight into his state of mind before the murders. By his letter, he still loved his wife and his daughters. He did not want to live anymore, but also did not want to leave the world without his beloved daughters. This letter explained Andrew's motives. The prosecution used this letter to argue that Andrew's actions were premeditated, stemming from a place of anger and despair. After weeks of emotional testimonies and rigorous examination of evidence, the trial reached its climax. On a solemn day in late 2018, the jury delivered their verdict. Andrew Berry was found guilty of 2 counts of second-degree murder for the deaths of his daughters, Chloe and Aubrey. The courtroom, filled with tense anticipation, let out a collective, subdued sigh as the verdict was read. Some wept softly, others simply nodded, their expressions a mixture of relief and sorrow. The sentencing phase followed shortly after the conviction. The judge sentenced Andrew to life in prison, with no possibility of parole for 22 years. This decision was met with mixed reactions. While some felt that justice had been served, others, especially those close to Sarah and her daughters, thought that the sentence could never truly compensate for the loss of Chloe and Aubrey. The community, which had followed the case closely and supported Sarah throughout the trial, continued to show their solidarity. The local newspapers and social media were filled with opinions, condolences, and calls for changes to how such cases are handled in the future. The tragic end of 2 young lives not only left a permanent mark on those who knew them, but also on the community that mourned the loss of innocence in such a brutal, heart-wrenching way. No one could predict that a second chance would lead to that. Thank you for joining us in remembering Chloe and Aubrey and reflecting on this poignant story. It is our hope that sharing their story will contribute to heightened awareness and prevention of such tragedies in the future. For now, take care of yourselves and each other, and keep the spirit of compassion and vigilance alive in your communities.
Laura, if you're listening, it doesn't matter what's happened, it doesn't matter.
Laura Wallen, a beloved social studies teacher at Wild Lake High School, vanished under mysterious circumstances in early September 2017. Just 31 years old and 4 months pregnant, Laura was adored by her students and colleagues alike, celebrated for her vibrancy and dedication to education. She had recently been honored as Teacher of the Year, a testament to her passion and commitment. On September 2, 2017, Laura was seen for the last time. She visited a local Safeway in Olney, Maryland, with her boyfriend, Tyler Tessier, preparing perhaps for the week ahead. But something was amiss. The following days, Laura failed to respond to messages and calls, sparking immediate concern among her family and friends. It was uncharacteristic of Laura, who was known for her reliability and communicative nature, to drop off the radar without any notice. Her sudden disappearance triggered a frantic search. As news spread, the community rallied in hope of finding her safe and sound, clinging to any piece of information that could lead to her whereabouts. But with each passing day, hope dwindled and suspicion grew, casting a shadow over those Laura had left behind. What happened to Laura Wallen in those final days? The quest to uncover the truth would soon reveal a tangled web of deceit, love, and betrayal, deeply shaking the small community of Columbia, Maryland. Laura Wallen was more than just a teacher. She was a guiding light in her community. Residing in Columbia, Maryland, Laura was deeply entrenched in the lives of her students at Wild Lake High School, where she taught social studies. Recognized for her innovative teaching methods, Laura was awarded Teacher of the Year in 2016, a clear indicator of her passion and dedication. At 31, not only was she shaping young minds, but she was also preparing to step into a new role as a mother, a journey she embraced with open arms. Laura's excitement for her future as a mom was palpable. Her pregnancy brought joy not only to her, but also to her parents, Mark and Gwen Wallen, who were looking forward to welcoming their grandchild. However, Laura's personal life harbored secrets that were hidden behind the smiles and the accolades. At the heart of these secrets was Tyler Tessier, her boyfriend. Tyler, also from Columbia, Maryland, had been in a tumultuous on and off relationship with Laura for several years. Despite their rocky history, Laura saw a future with him, unaware of the double life he led. Tyler was simultaneously engaged to another woman, Christina Wagner, a fact he meticulously kept from Laura. His engagement to Christina was not the only aspect of his deceit. Tyler had proposed to Christina with the same ring he showed to Laura as a symbol of their future. Christina Wagner, a teacher like Laura, was unknowingly entangled in Tyler's web of lies. She believed her relationship with Tyler was exclusive and was planning their wedding, scheduled for a date shockingly close to Laura's due date. Tyler's manipulation extended beyond his engagements. He spun tales of a fabricated stalker he claimed was harassing him, a story he told to both women to cover up his tracks and elicit their sympathy. The complexity of Tyler's double life began to unravel after Laura's disappearance, as the search for her exposed the layers of deceit. Tyler had told Christina that Laura, whom he described as an obsessive ex, had mental health issues, further complicating the narrative and painting himself as the victim. This web of lies not only misled Laura and Christina, but also set the stage for a tragic unraveling that captivated the Columbia community and beyond. Amidst the happy news of her pregnancy, Laura Wallen's life was shadowed by complicated personal relationships, primarily involving Tyler Tessier, her boyfriend. In July 2017, Laura found out she was pregnant. Ecstatic, she shared the news with Tyler and her family, expecting a new chapter filled with joy. However, the dynamics of her relationship with Tyler were not as they seemed. Tyler, entangled in deceit, was also engaged to another woman, Christina Wagner, whom Laura had no knowledge of until later. Laura's discovery of Tyler's engagement to Christina was a shocking betrayal, prompting her to seek answers directly from the source. In late August 2017, just days before her disappearance, Laura texted Christina in a bid to uncover the truth. Her message was poignant and filled with a mix of confusion and desperation. "Hi, Christina. This is Laura Wallen. I think it's important we talk about Tyler. I'm not sure what he's told you, but I'm pregnant and he's the father. I just found out about you, and I'm trying to understand the situation. It seems like we both might have been misled." Christina's response was one of surprise and confusion. She had believed her relationship with Tyler was exclusive and had no prior knowledge of his relationship with Laura reaching such a depth. Tyler, caught in the middle, fabricated stories to both women to keep his deceit from unraveling. He told Christina that Laura was an obsessed ex-girlfriend who was refusing to move on. To Laura, he claimed Christina was stalking him, which explained any odd encounters or pieces of information Laura might come across. Tyler dissuaded both women from involving the police or seeking external help by claiming it would only escalate the supposed stalking and harassment issues into more dangerous territory. His manipulation extended deeply, using lies about mental health and police ineffectiveness to keep both women isolated from the truth and from each other. When Laura shared her pregnancy news with her parents, her father, Mark Wallen, approached Tyler directly to discuss his intentions. Tyler's response was to reassure Laura's father, showing him an engagement ring and claiming his commitment to Laura and their unborn child. He promised marriage and a future together, placating Mark's concerns temporarily with well-rehearsed lies. This conversation occurred just days before Laura's mysterious disappearance, marking Tyler's last-ditch effort to maintain his facade. Laura Wallen was last seen on September 2, 2017. That day, she and Tyler Tessier were captured by surveillance cameras at a Safeway store near her home in Olney, Maryland. They were stocking up on groceries, possibly for the week ahead. Everything seemed normal to any onlooker, but the undercurrents of her personal life were anything but. The following day, September 3, 2017, was when everything changed. Tyler had planned a trip to a secluded field in Damascus, Maryland, under the guise of showing Laura a plot of land he claimed they could consider for their future home. Unbeknownst to Laura, this serene setting would soon turn into the backdrop of her mysterious disappearance. The next day, September 4, 2017, marked the beginning of the school year at Wild Lake High School, where Laura was supposed to welcome a new class of eager students. Her classroom, prepped with care and enthusiasm, remained untouched that day. Laura's uncharacteristic absence alarmed her colleagues and students, sparking immediate concern. It was unlike Laura to miss the first day of school without prior notice, and her silence sent ripples of worry through her community. When Laura did not return calls or texts, her family's worry deepened. Her father, Mark Wallen, driven by a growing sense of dread, contacted the police to report her missing. The police investigation quickly uncovered that not only was Laura missing, but her car was nowhere to be found. This discovery escalated the seriousness of her case. Tyler, when questioned by the police, presented a story that conflicted with the troubling facts surfacing. He claimed that after their date on September 3rd, they had returned to Laura's home. According to Tyler, an argument ensued. Laura was upset and angrily demanded that Tyler leave, which he did. He further claimed that they had arranged to meet the next morning, September 4th, at a local cafe to talk things over. However, Laura never showed up for the meeting, nor did she return to her home or contact any of her friends or family. Tyler's narrative did little to ease the concerns of Laura's family or the police, especially as it became clear that he was the last person to see her before she vanished. The field where Tyler took Laura was expansive, isolated, and the kind of place one might choose for privacy or a quiet talk. It was here, in this desolate location, that Laura's fate took a dark turn. The police, piecing together Tyler's last known movements with Laura, decided to search this area thoroughly. The field soon became the center of a grim police investigation as the last place Laura was known to be alive. This sequence of events, the final sightings, the missed first day of school, the desperate calls from her family, and Tyler's suspicious account of their last interactions, set the stage for a deeply troubling case. Each step Laura took towards that field seemed to lead further away from safety and closer to the heartbreak that awaited her loved ones. The search for Laura Wallen was now not just a matter of finding her, but also uncovering the truth hidden in the shadows of those final days. On September 4th, 2017, when Laura Wallen did not show up for the first day of school, it immediately raised alarms. Her classroom sat prepared, her lesson plans indicating a readiness that contrasted sharply with her absence. Known for her punctuality and dedication, her not turning up was out of character and prompted concern from colleagues and students alike. Her family, growing increasingly anxious with every unreturned call, reported Laura missing to the local police that same day. Her father, Mark Wallen, was particularly proactive, reaching out to the Montgomery County Police Department by late afternoon. The police began their investigation with routine checks, which initially hinted at a standard missing person case until the discovery of Laura's car escalated the situation. Laura's black Ford Escape was found on September 5, 2017, in a suburban parking lot a considerable distance from her home, but oddly close to her school, Wild Lake High School. The vehicle was abandoned. Her driver's license and a broken cell phone were discarded in a nearby dumpster, signs that foul play might be involved. These items were collected as evidence, pointing to a disruption in Laura's usual careful habits and suggesting she had not left willingly. The police then widened their search efforts, combing through local woods and fields near the last known locations of Laura's cell phone signals. Community volunteers joined the effort, distributing flyers and setting up online campaigns to spread awareness and gather any potential information from the public. Tyler Tessier, Laura's boyfriend, was brought in for questioning early in the investigation. He provided an account of his last interactions with Laura, which initially seemed to align with routine couple disagreements. Tyler told the police they had argued on the night of September 3, 2017, but had planned to meet the next morning to reconcile. His narrative stated that Laura had asked him to leave after their argument, a request he complied with, leaving her at her residence unharmed. However, as detectives delved deeper, Tyler's timeline began to show cracks. Security footage from the area around Laura's home and the location where her car was found did not support his version of events. His phone records contradicted his stated movements on those critical days. Each piece of evidence began to paint a concerning picture, suggesting that Tyler might know more about Laura's disappearance than he initially revealed. The field where Tyler claimed they had planned to build their home became a focal point of the search. On September 13, 2017, the search teams made a grim discovery there. Laura's body was found in a shallow grave in the same field Tyler had described as their future property. This discovery shifted the investigation dramatically, from a missing person case to a homicide investigation, with Tyler Tessier at the center as the prime suspect. As the investigation into Laura Wallen's disappearance intensified, the police began to piece together a troubling picture, centering increasingly on Tyler Tessier. Despite his initial portrayal as a concerned boyfriend, inconsistencies in his story soon emerged. By September 13, 2017, police had gathered enough evidence to transition their search into a full-scale criminal investigation. The breakthrough came when detectives decided to use Tyler himself as an unwitting tool in their investigation. They arranged a press conference, purportedly to gather public support and information. Tyler was invited to speak, presenting him as a grieving partner, which he accepted. Unknown to him, this was a strategic move by the police, who were already viewing him as a prime suspect. His demeanor and statements at the conference were carefully analyzed for inconsistencies and potential slips. In parallel, detectives scrutinized the digital footprints left by Laura and Tyler. Text messages retrieved from Laura's phone were particularly revealing. One conversation with her sister Jennifer on the day she disappeared showed her growing apprehension. She texted, "I'm with Tyler in Damascus. He's been acting odd. I'm not sure what's happening. We're supposed to be looking at property, but it doesn't feel right." Furthermore, after Laura's disappearance, Tyler sent misleading texts from Laura's phone to her sister, trying to fabricate a narrative that Laura was worried her ex-boyfriend Antoine, not Tyler, was the father of her unborn child. He even misspelled the ex-boyfriend's name in these messages, a mistake that raised suspicions and indicated he was trying to manipulate the situation. "Tyler isn't the baby's father. It's Antoine. I don't think I can go home tonight. I might go somewhere to think." Investigators also uncovered that Tyler had returned to the field more than 10 times after Laura's disappearance. Text to a friend requesting help to clean up a mess further implicated him, though the friend refused to assist. The discovery of Laura's body was the grim culmination of these efforts. On September 13th, using dogs and following tire tracks that matched Tyler's vehicle, police found Laura in a shallow grave in the Damascus field she had last texted her sister about. She had been shot in the back of the head with a .22 caliber rifle, a methodical, execution-style killing that pointed to premeditation. Forensic analysis matched the tire tracks to Tyler's vehicle, and the dogs alerted exactly where Laura was buried, under a piece of purple fabric that matched her last known outfit. These pieces of evidence, combined with Tyler's multiple trips to the field and his inconsistent accounts, led to his arrest shortly after the body was discovered. Tyler's fabricated stories crumbled under the weight of his own actions and the diligent work of the investigators. His staged emotions at the press conference, his frantic cover-up efforts, and the forensic evidence all painted a clear picture of his guilt, leading to his charge of first-degree murder. On September 30th, 2017, Laura Wallen was laid to rest in a solemn ceremony attended by family, friends, and members of the community. Her funeral was not just a moment to mourn, but also to remember her vibrant life and the joy she brought to so many. Alongside Laura, her unborn son, whom she had planned to name Reed, was also honored and remembered. The dual loss of Laura and her unborn child was a poignant reminder of the future they might have had, adding to the community's grief. After Tyler Tessier's arrest, he faced charges of first-degree murder. The case against him was strong, with digital evidence and forensic analysis all pointing to his involvement in Laura's death. Tyler's defense team prepared to challenge the prosecution's evidence, focusing on procedural issues and the legitimacy of the evidence collection methods. They argued that Tyler had not been properly Mirandized before some of his statements were made, which could potentially make those statements inadmissible in court. The legal debates and pre-trial hearings were intense, as prosecutors aimed to prove Tyler planned the murder after Laura confronted him about his other relationships. On the morning of September 6, 2018, as the trial was about to commence, Tyler Tessier was found dead in his jail cell. He had committed suicide, using a bedsheet to hang himself. This sudden end to his life meant that the trial would never proceed, leaving many questions about his motives and potentially other details of the case unanswered. For Laura's family, the news of Tyler's suicide was another devastating blow in a saga of immense pain. Although this act denied them the closure of seeing him held accountable in a court of law, the legal system continued to process the findings of the investigation to at least provide some form of justice for Laura and her unborn son, Reed. The tragic death of Laura Wallen resonated deeply within her community and the educational sector. On September 30th, 2017, a large congregation of family, friends, students, and colleagues gathered to pay their respects at St. Andrew's Lutheran Church in Silver Spring, Maryland. The service not only mourned her loss, but also celebrated her life and the positive impact she had made on so many. In honor of Laura and her dedication to teaching, Wild Lake High School established a scholarship fund in her name, aimed at supporting students aspiring to become educators. This scholarship serves as a lasting tribute to Laura's passion for education and her belief in the power of learning to change lives. Additionally, the school held memorial events and dedicated a section of their library as a quiet reflection area named in her memory. These actions were a testament to the profound bond Laura had formed with her community and her enduring influence on her students. Her colleagues described her as a beacon of kindness and enthusiasm, and the memorial initiatives ensured her legacy would continue to inspire future generations. Laura Wallen's case captured widespread media attention, highlighting the severe issues surrounding domestic violence and the dangers of intimate partner violence. Major networks and local news channels extensively covered the search for Laura, her relationship with Tyler Tessier, and the shocking developments following her disappearance. The media also played a crucial role in shaping public discourse on the safety of pregnant women and the need for more stringent protective measures for them. As we remember Laura Wallen, let us honor her memory by fostering a supportive and vigilant community. Let her legacy inspire us to cherish and protect those around us, to recognize the signs of distress in our loved ones, and to take action against violence and deceit. We must strive to create a safer environment for all, particularly the most vulnerable among us. Laura's story, tragic in its unfolding, reminds us of the critical need for awareness and change. Together, let's pledge to make a difference, ensuring her spirit lives on in the positive actions we take forward. Thank you for joining today's
Honey, if you see this, if you're out there, you can come to me. I'm not mad at you. I'm worried about you. Your family's worried about you.
In Blacksburg, Virginia, the usual calm of this college town was sharply disrupted on a cold January night in 2016. This community, nestled in the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains and typically alive with the vibrant energy of Virginia Tech, was about to be shaken by a disappearance that echoed through the streets with a chilling impact. 13-year-old Nicole Lovell was more than just a middle school student. She was a survivor. From a tender age of 10 months, she had battled with a liver transplant, a condition that tethered her daily to a strict regimen of life-saving pills that prevented her body from rejecting her transplanted organ. Despite these challenges, Nicole approached life with zest. She adored her cats, expressed herself through art, and found joy in singing. Online, she explored social media with an innocent curiosity, seeking connections in digital conversations, unaware of the dangers this virtual world harbored. On the evening of January 27, 2016, Nicole's mother, Tammy, checked in on her daughter as she slept, or so she thought. After saying goodnight, she closed the door, unaware that Nicole had other plans. With precision, Nicole propped her dresser against the door, a makeshift barrier to secure her night's mission. She opened her bedroom window to the biting cold and prepared to meet someone she had befriended online, armed with her phone, backpack, and a blanket emblazoned with characters from an animated film, but critically, not her essential medication. This error in judgment, a decision to leave behind the pills that kept her bodily rejection at bay, set the stage for dire consequences. By morning, the alarm was raised. Nicole's bed was empty, her essentials gone, except for the crucial medication she inadvertently left behind. Her window stood open, a silent testament to her departure. The discovery sent ripples of panic through her family and the police, as the urgency of her medical needs cast a grim shadow over the search efforts. The community was spurred into action, combing the snowy town for any sign of Nicole, their efforts underscored by the knowledge that each passing hour without her medication could be catastrophic. Blacksburg, normally bustling with the innocent chaos of college life, was covered not only by January's cold snow, but also by a chilling silence that fell upon the town as the news of Nicole Lovell's disappearance spread. Early on the morning of January 28, 2016, upon discovering Nicole's empty room, her mother, Tammy Weeks, was gripped with panic. The bedroom window was open, a stark and haunting exit point, showcasing Nicole's desperate escape into the frigid night. Without hesitation, Tammy called the local police, instigating a search that would soon involve the entire community. The Blacksburg police, equipped with urgency and resolve, coordinated with Virginia Tech's extensive network, deploying drones to scour the rugged mountainous landscapes that characterize the area. These drones buzzed over the thickets and frozen grounds, providing a bird's eye view in the hopes of catching any sign of Nicole. Meanwhile, nearly 1,000 volunteers, including Virginia Tech students, local residents, and even those from neighboring towns, came together in an overwhelming display of community spirit. They combed through the snowy underbrush, calling Nicole's name and praying for a sign. The local media, catching wind of the distressing situation, propelled Nicole's story into the regional spotlight, further amplifying the search efforts. As the first day of searching transitioned into a cold, anxious night, the community braced themselves, holding on to hope despite the growing despair. The search teams, faces numbed by the cold, realized the grim reality that Nicole was not only missing, but in grave danger due to her medical condition. Without her medication, every passing hour diminished her chances of survival, adding a palpable urgency to the ongoing efforts. The integration of ground searches with advanced technology like drones underscored the desperate yet determined endeavors to locate one of their own before it was too late. In the digital shadows of social media, Nicole Lovell found both solace and peril. By January 2016, her online activities had woven a complicated web that went unnoticed by those around her. Through platforms like Kik and Facebook, Nicole, longing for friendship and acceptance, interacted with various users, oblivious to the dangers lurking behind anonymous profiles. Nicole's virtual persona was an escape from the constraints of her medical condition and the isolation it sometimes fostered. It was on these digital playgrounds that she encountered David Eisenhower, a freshman at Virginia Tech. Eisenhower, under the guise of Dr. Tombstone, presented himself as a kindred spirit to the lonely Nicole, who was eager to connect with someone she believed understood her. Their conversations, hidden from the watchful eyes of Nicole's family, deepened, setting the stage for the tragic events that followed. By the end of January 27, 2016, their interaction had escalated from casual chats to a planned meeting. Unbeknownst to Nicole, the person she confided in and was about to meet harbored sinister intentions. This online relationship, nurtured through text and instant messages, would prove fatal. Eisenhower manipulated Nicole's desire for companionship, turning her against the safety nets of her real-world connections. The revelation of these interactions later highlighted the dual nature of technology, a tool for both connection and manipulation. As investigators delved into Nicole's online life, the extent of her digital footprint began to paint a disturbing picture, one that underscored the vulnerability of young, unsuspecting individuals in the face of seasoned predators masquerading as friends online. The digital clues Nicole left behind were crucial in tracing her steps to that fateful night, leading authorities closer to uncovering the grim reality of her disappearance. David Eisenhower, an 18-year-old freshman at Virginia Tech, came into the academic spotlight not just for his intellectual pursuits, but also for his athletic prowess. Hailing from Columbia, Maryland, he was a star track athlete during his high school years, often celebrated for his distance running skills. His accolades included multiple state championships, which paved his way to one of Virginia's most prestigious engineering programs. At Virginia Tech, Eisenhower was studying engineering, drawn by the university's robust program and its promise of a bright future. However, beneath his accomplished exterior lurked a more complex personality. Described by peers as introverted and somewhat aloof, he often struggled to form deep personal connections. His social interactions were marked by a sense of detachment, which made it difficult for him to integrate fully into the bustling social life typical of a college freshman. Online, Eisenhower's persona took on a different hue. On platforms like Kik and Facebook, he was Dr. Tombstone, a moniker that hinted at a darker side. Through these channels, he projected an image that was more confident and outgoing, a stark contrast to his real-world demeanor. It was through these digital interactions that he connected with Nicole Lovell. Their conversations, hidden behind screen names and digital messages, allowed Eisenhower to manipulate and mislead, ultimately leading to their tragic real-world encounter on January 27, 2016. On the night of January 27, 2016, Nicole Lovell, wrapped in her minion's blanket, quietly got out of her bedroom window, leaving behind the safety of her home. With her backpack and phone in hand, she was prepared to meet David Eisenhower, whom she trusted and believed to be a friend. The cold didn't deter her. Her focus was on the adventure ahead, an adventure that promised new friendship but led to a grim fate. Eisenhower picked her up from her neighborhood in Blacksburg, and they drove to a secluded area in North Carolina, near the Virginia border. The drive was quiet, the kind of silence that precedes a storm. Nicole, unaware of the dangers that lay ahead, was just happy to be with someone she believed saw her as a friend. Upon arriving at the predetermined location, the atmosphere shifted. The secluded area, chosen by Eisenhower for its privacy and isolation, became the stage for a heinous act. There, Eisenhower betrayed Nicole's trust in the most brutal way. He first assaulted her, a violent act that left Nicole disoriented and fearful. Then, with calculated brutality, he took the shovel they had bought the day before and struck Nicole in the neck, a blow that broke her vertebrae and was intended to be fatal. But Nicole was a fighter. Despite her severe injury, she was still alive. It was then that Eisenhower, in a final act of cruelty, used a knife to end Nicole's life. He stabbed her 14 times, 7 stabs on the head and face, 7 other stabs on her chest, and the fatal one, on the neck, ensuring her silence would be permanent. After committing the murder, Eisenhower coldly disposed of her body off North Carolina Route 89, covering her with leaves and branches in an attempt to hide his crime. The quiet drive and the violent acts in the secluded woods marked the tragic end of Nicole Lovell's life, a life taken too soon by a person she thought was a friend. The betrayal was not just personal, but a stark reminder of the dangers that can lurk behind friendly online personas. The breakthrough in the investigation into Nicole Lovell's disappearance came swiftly due to a blend of traditional detective work and modern digital forensics. After Nicole was reported missing on January 28, 2016, the police immediately began to scour her bedroom for clues. They discovered her usernames and passwords scribbled on her bedroom wall, a naive oversight by Nicole that became a crucial lead. Investigators accessed Nicole's social media profiles and sifted through her communications. It was through these digital traces that they encountered an alarming amount of interaction between Nicole and a user named Dr._Tombstone, later identified as David Eisenhower. This username alone painted a grim foreboding, and further scrutiny of their exchanges confirmed the police's worst fears. As they pieced together the timeline of Nicole's final hours, a neighbor provided a chilling confirmation. She recounted that Nicole had been playing with her children and mentioned a plan to meet an 18-year-old guy and run away with him. This revelation not only corroborated the digital evidence, but also added a sinister reality to the chats extracted from Nicole's accounts. The FBI intensified the investigation, delving deeper into the chats between Nicole and Eisenhower. The messages were fraught with manipulation, with Eisenhower masking his predatory intentions under the guise of affection and understanding. When the police brought Eisenhower in for questioning, he maintained his innocence, claiming ignorance of any plan Nicole might have had. However, the content of his text exchanges with Natalie Keepers told a different story. Police analyzed their messages and discovered disturbing discussions about how to clean blood and eliminate its smell, details that were not just suspicious, but outright damning. These texts provided not only the motive, but also depicted a premeditated plan to cover up a heinous crime. Armed with this evidence, the police examined Eisenhower's phone more thoroughly and established a connection between him and Keepers. The digital trail was irrefutable, leading to their arrests. This case highlighted the dark underbelly of online interactions and underscored the importance of digital footprints in solving modern crimes. The chats about blood cleanup were particularly pivotal, turning the tide in an already tragic investigation by pinning down the calculated steps taken post-murder, which ultimately led to the swift apprehension of both suspects. During the investigation, a particularly chilling moment unfolded when prosecutors revealed David Eisenhower's initial reaction to being questioned by the police. When first approached by law enforcement on January 30, 2016, just days after Nicole's disappearance, and before her body had been discovered, Eisenhower's response was cold and calculated. He told the officers, "I believe you should be out searching for her body and not here wasting your time with me." On January 30th, 2016, 3 days after Nicole Lovell's disappearance, the police made a significant breakthrough that led directly to the arrests of David Eisenhower and Natalie Keepers. Armed with evidence from Nicole's social media and the incriminating chats found on Eisenhower's phone, the police were ready to confront Keepers about her involvement. During her interrogation, Keepers initially tried to downplay her role, but when presented with the chat logs detailing discussions about disposing of a body and cleaning up blood, she crumbled under the pressure. She confessed that Eisenhower had killed Nicole and that she had helped him plan and cover up the crime. Keepers gave a detailed account of the murder, explaining how they drove Nicole to a secluded location, how Eisenhower used a knife to end Nicole's life, and how they later disposed of her body in Surry County, North Carolina. Following Keepers' confession, the police arrested Eisenhower. A search of his residence unearthed further damning evidence: the knife used in the murder and Nicole's minion's blanket, both of which had traces of Nicole's blood. Eisenhower, however, maintained his innocence, denying any involvement in the murder despite the overwhelming evidence against him. The initial charges laid against them were grave. Eisenhower was charged with abduction and first-degree murder, reflecting the premeditated nature of the crime. Keepers faced charges of being an accessory before the fact to first-degree murder and improper disposal of a body. These charges set the stage for a trial that would captivate and horrify the public as the full extent of their actions came to light. Also, on January 26, 2016, a day before Nicole's disappearance, surveillance footage captured David Eisenhower and Natalie Keepers at a local Walmart purchasing a shovel that would later be used to bury Nicole's body. The footage showed them selecting the shovel together, a chilling prelude to the crime they were about to commit. This evidence was crucial as it not only linked them to the crime scene, but also demonstrated their joint participation in the planning and execution of the murder, underscoring their premeditated intent and collaborative effort in carrying out the heinous act. Natalie Keepers, a 19-year-old student at Virginia Tech, was studying aerospace engineering when she crossed paths with David Eisenhower. Originally from Laurel, Maryland, she shared Eisenhower's academic rigor and interest in engineering, but differed markedly in personality. Described as intense and more outgoing than Eisenhower, Keepers was known for her analytical skills, which she unfortunately turned to a sinister use. Keepers met Eisenhower shortly after beginning her studies at Virginia Tech. Their friendship developed quickly, bonded through their shared courses and initially innocent conversations. However, as Eisenhower became involved with Nicole Lovell, he confided in Keepers, pulling her into the vortex of his plan. Keepers' role evolved from a confidant to an accomplice as she helped Eisenhower plot the crime. Their planning was meticulous and macabre. On January 26, 2016, the day before Nicole's disappearance, Keepers and Eisenhower purchased a shovel that would later be used to dig Nicole's grave. They also acquired cleaning supplies, a premeditated move to erase any traces of the crime they were about to commit. Post-murder, Keepers' actions were calculated and cold. She assisted in transporting Nicole's body to North Carolina and attempted to clean up the crime scene, demonstrating a disturbing level of detachment and foresight. Keepers' involvement did not go unnoticed. Her actions post-murder, especially her attempts to cover up the crime, were critical in the investigation, leading to her arrest along with Eisenhower. Her trial would later reveal the depth of her involvement, marking her not just as an accessory, but as a key participant in the tragic events that led to Nicole Lovell's death. As the investigation into Nicole Lovell's murder unfolded, the search for evidence extended beyond interviews and digital forensics. Law enforcement officials, along with volunteers, scoured the forest that lined the road to where Nicole's body was found. This intense search involved not only combing through the underbrush, but also divers exploring nearby lakes and ponds, hunting for any items that might have been discarded by Eisenhower and Keepers after the murder. In these efforts, divers retrieved a disturbed patch of mud and sticks that appeared to have been hastily covered, under which they found a bloodied shovel and items of clothing that were critical in linking the crime to Eisenhower and Keepers directly. Meanwhile, another team inspected David Eisenhower's car. In the trunk, detectives discovered conclusive and damning evidence: bloodstains that matched Nicole's DNA profile and the Minion's blanket she had taken with her on the night she vanished, now also bloodied. These findings painted a gruesome picture of the night's events and were pivotal in building the case against Eisenhower and keepers. The presence of Nicole's blood in the trunk of Eisenhower's car and on the blanket, along with the shovel found submerged near the crime scene, corroborated the narrative that had been pieced together through Keeper's confession and the digital evidence collected by the police. This physical evidence linked both suspects to the murder unequivocally, demonstrating their attempts to cover up their grim actions and dispose of Nicole's body in a remote location. During the autopsy, forensics experts discovered small pieces of skin lodged under Nicole Lovell's fingernails. These were crucial pieces of evidence, suggesting a struggle had occurred during her final moments. The skin samples were immediately sent for DNA analysis, which later confirmed that the DNA matched David Eisenhower's profile. This evidence was pivotal as it directly placed him at the scene of the crime, contradicting his initial claims of innocence and further solidifying his role in Nicole's murder. This forensic detail helped paint a clearer picture of the events leading to Nicole's tragic death and was instrumental in the prosecution's case against Eisenhower. As the trial date approached, the legal teams on both sides prepared diligently for what would be a closely watched courtroom battle. The prosecution team gathered substantial evidence, including the DNA results from under Nicole's fingernails, the blood-stained Minion's blanket, and the shovel used to bury her body, all crucial in proving David Eisenhower's direct involvement in the crime. Additionally, they compiled logs of the incriminating conversations between Eisenhower and Natalie Keepers, which detailed their sinister plans and efforts to cover up the murder. The defense attorneys for Eisenhower and Keepers prepared to challenge the prosecution's evidence, focusing on potential procedural errors and the credibility of forensic methods. They planned to argue that the evidence collected was circumstantial and to question the integrity of the DNA results. The stage was set for a contentious trial, with both sides ready to fiercely advocate for their positions. The trial, set to begin in March 2017, promised to reveal the disturbing details of the case and provide clarity on the events that led to Nicole's tragic death. His choice of words, suggesting a search for a body rather than a missing person, starkly contradicted the hopeful narrative that Nicole might be found alive, further entangling him in the web of his own lies. This early interaction with the police was used by the prosecution to underline his direct connection to the crime, bolstering their case against him with his own prematurely incriminating statements. On January 28th, David was arrested. On February 2nd, 2018, the courtroom was packed as the verdicts for David Eisenhower and Natalie Keepers were delivered. Eisenhower was found guilty of first-degree murder, abduction, and concealing a dead body. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison for the murder, 5 years for abduction, and an additional 10 years for concealing the body, totaling 65 years. However, 15 years have been canceled, making it 50 years in total. Natalie Keepers, who was arrested later on January 31st, found guilty of being an accessory before the fact to first-degree murder and concealing a dead body, received a 40-year sentence for her role in the crime and 5 years for helping hide the body. But her sentence was also shortened by 5 years, making it not 45, but 40 years in prison. David was also charged $5,000, which was for the family of Nicole. Media coverage of the trial had been extensive, and the verdicts were broadcasted widely, drawing comments from across the nation about the dangers of online interactions and the severity of the sentences handed to the young perpetrators. The general public reaction was one of vindication for Nicole's family, but also a reflection on what could be done to prevent such tragedies in the future. The sentences were seen as a necessary end to a painful chapter for Nicole's family, hoping to bring some degree of closure to a community shaken by such a horrific crime. Nicole Lovell's tragic end on January 27, 2016, deeply impacted not just her family, but the entire Blacksburg community and beyond. Her life, though brief, sparked significant discussions about the safety of children online, emphasizing the urgent need for vigilance and education in the digital age. The community rallied to honor her memory, establishing initiatives aimed at educating youths about the potential dangers of online interactions. Schools within and around Blacksburg started to implement more comprehensive digital literacy programs to teach students about privacy, the importance of reporting suspicious activities, and how to recognize predatory behavior. Furthermore, Nicole's story prompted local authorities to host workshops for parents, helping them understand social media's landscape and how they can better safeguard their children. Nicole's vibrant spirit, love for life, and creative talents are remembered through annual scholarships established in her name, aimed at supporting young people who show promise in the arts and sciences, reflecting Nicole's interests. As we look back on Nicole's life and legacy, questions remain about how society can protect vulnerable youths when they log on. How can we ensure that Nicole's story leads to positive change? What measures can be put in place to prevent such tragedies from recurring? Her legacy is not just a memory, it's a call to action, a reminder that in the digital world, vigilance should never sleep.